Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Our show today is A Woman's Prerogative in partnership with E360 TV. Today's topic, I'm really excited about this one because the story behind the topic is much more juicy than what the topic sounds. The digital dilemma, resilience, big tech power and the legal battles. The reason that we're exploring this is because the person, my very special guest, is going to delve into big tech and its power and how it affects us and the injustices of it all. I'm Caroline HEWARD. I'm absolutely thrilled and honoured to be representing Dr. Jacqueline as your host for USA Global TV and Radio flagship show. I am a TV presenter for USA Global TV and also the resident therapist. A very warm welcome to our loyal viewers and our friends at E360 TV. And hello to all of our usual friends on our normal social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Well, our special guest is Sophie NEWBOULD. She is a UK licensed solicitor. She is a data and digital specialist. She is a commercial IT litigation. She is organizational resilience specialist. She has landed and is doing pro bono community initiatives with a company called Who Cares. More about that a little bit later. What's really fascinating and what I feel is absolutely unbelievable in terms of her background is that she has worked with the Home Office as the EU Exit Contracts Advisor with the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office. That's for the ones in the UK, and Europe will remember that as Brexit. She has also been working with the Met Office on 1 billion supercomputer 2020 plus program in the UK. She's worked with the gambling commissions for the National Lottery and License of Competition. Let's bring out our very special guest, Sophie NEWBOULD.
Thank you, Caroline. That was quite an introduction.
Well, you have.
I was looking around me for who this person was.
You have an amazing background, Sophie, an absolutely incredible background in terms of what you have done, what you do. And more importantly, when we caught up in a conversation on Friday morning, the reason why, I'm really fascinated by the reason why. But before we delve into that, please do introduce yourself to our viewers, telling our viewers a little bit about what you do and how you help people and really what you stand for.
Thank you. So it's lovely to be on USA Global TV and Radio today. I'm really honoured to be invited. And basically, it took a long while for me to work out what I wanted to do. But I had a sort of a sense of injustice, a big injustice, when I was a teenager that affected and very badly impacted my family. So I didn't realise at the time, but when I did go into law, it was very much a science-based and money-based. It wasn't really a vocation, actually. It was just purely thought that would be the right place to make money. But actually, my choice broke me, and I ended up starting again. And I ended up in a private finance initiative team that basically got me looking at contracts when I was sort of about 20 years old. And then I realised that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into public sector infrastructure. So I went back to law and studied, and had a real vocation to sense of duty, really, to make sure that public sector money was spent properly and wisely. But I had no idea where it would take me, and I had no idea how hard it was going to be to actually get into that environment. So I've really got to cut a very, very long story short to say I ended up in the high street to train, where I was getting instructions from, new business founders setting up sort of website type companies. So very early on in my legal career, I was advising on quite complex terms and conditions. And that got me into a very big project, ICT, information communications technology project role with my local county council. And it was from there, that was around 2012, that my career literally took off, because I do understand contracts, I do understand obligations and the complexity of the infrastructure and the potential risks and the harms that come out of those risks. And yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to work with some fantastic companies, with fantastic people. I've seen the dark side of the public sector as well as the good. And, I do have a sense of justice and duty. Working with Setfords now, it's lovely because I am focusing on businesses, but I've got a very, my vocation has taken me into pro bono and helping very much the human side of, where the infrastructure is turning everything digital. We've got to be careful what the impact is on our society.
Oh, thank you very much, Sophie. And I'm looking forward to delving further into those aspects during our show. And for me, I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I help people best their stress. How do I do that? I work with root cause therapy and chakra psychology, how the mind and body connects, and what happens to the person physically, emotionally, mentally when there's an imbalance. And the imbalance is the symptom that they are complaining about. Many people say they're not stressed, and yet they're walking around saying that they didn't sleep last night, or they have a severe headache, or they keep having a repeating migraine or low back pain, or they're complaining about a relationship. That is how their stress is manifesting. And so I work with them to identify the root cause with a very simple process which obliterates the symptom and moves them into a place of inner peace, and moves them into a place of releasing the emotion that kept that symptom live and active for the years that it was. I also do lunch and learns for corporates, and I also am a speaker, and I'm a TV presenter on USA Global TV and Radio, and the resident therapist. So let's begin. Sophie, let's delve into our topic. A reminder of the topic: the digital dilemma, resilience, big tech power, and legal battles. So you were really excited when I shared this topic with you. You were very pleased that I came up with from what you wanted to talk about in terms of how I summed it up. Yeah. But what is the digital? What's the problem with the digital dilemma? What is wrong with it? What's the impact of the digital dilemma?
So I'll try and keep this simple, but basically, most organisations, if not all, that I've worked with have invested heavily into digital transformation over the last, say, decade. And what that really has been a shift from local servers, local infrastructure, or at least in smaller supply chains, into what is the big tech, the cloud services, which is effectively outsourcing the entire, hosting and server network of all those organizations' data. And we live in a data world where personal data is regulated, but also there are other sort of assets that are extremely valuable to companies, to public sector organizations, and they're literally giving their jewels over to third parties, and the complexity of these supply chains and the actual understanding of where, what is actually happening to your assets is kind of disappearing. So I'm looking at this from the glasses of a horror show, because in my day, I come from a sort of a big Irish family, and you did business with people who you're dealing with. You wouldn't hand over your precious jewels to strangers, and we have been blindsided by brands, by sizes and turnovers of companies, without really understanding what's actually happening to your organization as you do that. What I have found is that buyers literally seem to be quite satisfied with not knowing too much about what they're buying. And my call is to say we need to do more from the buyer's side, because it's very much a seller's market. The power shift has moved entirely into the seller's domain. We can use technology to our advantage to find out what the risks are. We can speed these things up, but I think that there is a really not a matching acceleration curve of learning, so that the buyer is sitting on the same, let's say, balance of power as the supplier. And I've got real concerns about the public sector. They know that. I've expressed my concerns on several occasions. And, I can't blame the suppliers, because they haven't got the resistance to bring this back to shape, even though we have got Competition Markets Authority, Information Commissioner's Office, the court system. I'm a bit, I wish we could do more in justice to bring justice into what is the digital era, quite frankly. Is trying to get a fit for purpose system that protects people, place and economy.
Do you know, this is making me feel very uncomfortable, Sophie, and I'm going to be extremely honest with you, because just bringing it into reality, in terms of how people have experienced when there's a data breach. There was a huge one with Cambridge, wasn't there? And everybody was in uproar about it. And suddenly they were almost screwing down the smaller business, I felt, rather than the big tech businesses. What are your thoughts about that? Because that was a huge situation, and that I'm hearing the same kind of things about Microsoft. I mean, I'm having to update my computer probably about 4 or 5 times a week, and there's all sorts of security updates, and it's driving me crazy because it's taking hours and hours. But it's because there's so many security breaches. So what are your thoughts about that? Because I know you have some real views in terms of the data that is exposed and what's happening.
Well, it really comes down to basic business. The buyer has to ultimately take responsibility of what it's actually doing. And when for some reason, when it comes to digital transformation and the adoption of cloud, for some reason there's just way too much trust in brands. And as I said, I don't think I can really knock the big tech companies. They've done what they've done on the basis of they can sell pretty much anything, and the accountability. So I like to make sort of comparisons for people to understand what I'm talking about. So if you're going to a supermarket and you're buying some meat and some yogurt and some whatever, you're going to know exactly what is in the label. The label on the side, that's a legal requirement, is going to tell you exactly how much sugar's in there, the calories, the fat, the vitamins, whatever. My point is, we don't get that when we buy technology. Buying technology, you can't compare it to buying construction. You can't compare it to buying food or retail or anything. It's a completely different kettle of fish. And what we haven't got despite all the legislation that comes through from the United States, from the EU, now the UK is standing on its own. It's just allowing people to lean on the law to say, it's okay, we're complying. The compliance flag is absolutely killing it for businesses and business owners. What I'm trying to say is it's the roles and responsibilities of those on the board deciding these strategies to change their businesses into data and digital type companies or organizations have to make those decisions really if they're going to survive, knowing exactly what it is they're buying. And it's not taking a specification from a brand to say, oh, perfect, thank you very much. It's actually, you've got to dig a lot deeper to understand, well, how secure are your servers? How secure is the infrastructure you're selling us? What actually are you doing with our data? How can you prove it? Are your terms and conditions even compliant with the legislation? And I know for a fact, terms and conditions that are universally signed, probably multiple times a day in real time, are not even being read because they're not even compliant with the legislation, and nobody's picking up on it. So when you're getting an update or a notification for an update or something, how do you know what's really behind that update? And having worked with security experts, I believe they're not always as legitimate as they sound, and we've really got to get real here. Where is the trading standards unit that really understands digital, so we can actually understand what and how do we know what a misleading or misrepresentative sale is? Because if we don't actually even have a clue what's in it, and the regulators don't, how do the buyers stand a chance? So what I've been saying to buyers, example, local councils, and my message to the NHS is, you've got to band together to create the power, leverage the power to be able to really, it's your responsibility to identify what the risks are that you've adopted and speak to the big brands to close those risks. If we don't have the right conversations with those big brands, why should they change?
Thank you very much, Sophie. This is all starting to sound quite a big dilemma, a huge dilemma, not only for the average person that's on the high street, you and me, and my parents, my family, and my community. It's actually also businesses, and I feel that there's a lot of compliancy targeted at small businesses. But then, very recently, my mum is in a bank that keeps on having security outages where they can't access their money. But we're just about to go over to a commercial break. So we're going to come back with more insights. And I would love you to share with our viewers something about how and why you are as passionate as you are, because you don't sound like a normal legal person to me. You sound like there's something else behind it. So we're going to find out a little bit more about Sophie Newbould. But before we do, let's go over to a very short commercial break. Please come back, and we look forward to continuing our riveting conversation.
We face daily cyber risks, spending over 7 hours of screen time, including 4.5 hours on mobile phones. This convenience comes with significant dangers, with cybercrime costs predicted to exceed $10.5 trillion by 2025. In 2023 alone, seniors lost over $3.4 billion to cybercrime. Our goal is to make social engineering concepts of cybersecurity easier to understand. We work with business teams, senior living facilities, investment companies, and educational institutions, both individually and in groups. We offer real-life examples to help you recognize and prevent attacks, with sessions available both in person, in selected regions, and remotely. Schedule your training session, or to learn more, contact us today. Call us at 847-845-9360. Email us at info@cybersecurityeasy.com. Protect your team and family with cybersecurityeasy.com.
Hello and welcome back to A Woman's Prerogative, where we are exploring the topic, the digital dilemma, resilience Big Tech Power and Legal Battles. And a very, very warm welcome back to our wonderful special guest, Sophie NEWBOULD. If you missed before the commercial break, please do catch us on the replay so that you can find out what we've been discussing. So, Sophie, we were looking at some really interesting dilemmas of big tech. What I would like you to do now is share with our viewers a little bit about your background in terms of what was the reason behind, in terms of what you shared with me when we first spoke, in terms of your injustice, your humanitarian desire to put things right, because behind this passion, there is a very human story. So I'm going to leave you to share a little bit about what happened, and why you're so passionate about what's going on in today's world.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, when I was 13, and it's important that I remember, well, I'll always remember it, but the impact of crime that it had on my family. So the summer of 1992 was a summer holiday. I was 13 at the time, and my grandfather passed away whilst we were on holiday. So my mother, who lived from Mauritius, had to fly out from Paris to go to her father, who had died, and comfort my grandmother, V. And Grandma, she was a white English woman. It does matter because she was in Mauritius, and Granddad was Mauritian, coloured skin, very well known. But anyway, so Mum came back after, burying Granddad after a heart attack. And then literally we were planning on getting Grandma back home, back to England, because she was 72 and on her own. Well, she had lots of friends, but a widow is vulnerable. And I'll never forget my mother screaming downstairs, and it was the 8th of September, and my birthday was the 11th of September, and Grandma's birthday was the 13th of September. So this whole early September era has just been very haunting for me my whole life. Not now, but whilst I didn't understand the pain. But my grandma was murdered 6 weeks after my grandfather died of natural causes. She was tortured by 3 people, and we never got justice for it. And my mum and dad flew out to Mauritius on my birthday when I was 14, and it was the most surreal experience. I'm the eldest of 4, and all I remember is seeing my mother screaming and shouting at us when we came into the kitchen to see what was going on, screaming at me to say, your grandmother's been murdered. And I just remember running upstairs, and my nanny was chucking me out of the kitchen, get out. And the 4 of us just didn't have a clue what to do, but I did. And I just ran up to my room, and I remember my anger, like it was so bad. And I shouted sort of expletives out the window, and I shouted revenge, basically. And yeah, that's it. So going back to school, I felt like no one believed me. I felt totally like I was living a lie. And I basically, I had no idea what the impact on my life was or would be. But justice was always going to be part of it. And whether I knew it or I didn't naturally say to myself, I'm going to get justice for people or justice for myself. And the justice for me was the fact that I managed to get my grades, and I managed to have a life, and I managed to carry on whilst everything had changed. And when I say change, any victim, any family that's been affected by crime, you cannot describe it, and it's not something that nobody can fix it, right? And And what's happened is, because I was a scientist, and I found a love for law in technology, but it's the biggest circle here is the cybercrime. You know, the impact cybercrime is having on people, and it's a silent harm. It's horrendous. The impacts are completely really unknown, and when you're going through it, it's like you've lost everything, and you lose your personality, and you lose your health, and you can lose your life, and it's so serious. So it's kind of like a round circle. But the pro bono point of Who Cares, which was about the duty of care of the state, the harm that happens when that duty of care is not met. So when I started that, I was helping families whose children were not being met with their SEND care packages, and these families had no way of getting justice. And I have this natural connection, I think, with people who genuinely can't access justice. It's unbelievable. I think it's something we think should exist. And I remember very early on in my career, one of the partners said, "Why are you doing law?" And I said, "Oh, you know, I believe in justice." And he said, "Well, it doesn't exist. Like, get used to that." And I can't get used to that, but there is a truth in what he said. And if you can acknowledge what the truth is, then we can find other solutions in the right way.
Well, Sophie, thank you so much for your transparency and for sharing what I'm sure was just horrendous experience of losing family members in that way. I can't even imagine what you must have gone through, you know, to have that happen so young. And I'm sure that any viewer that's watching this, whether it's live or on the replay, will reach out, you know, in their hearts and say, yeah, no wonder this person wants to do justice.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why you're so passionate. This is not a normal legal conversation. This is, you want justice, and it's not just for you, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the passion I hear. That's the commitment. Last week I did a show with Dr. Jacqueline, and we did it on a calling, you know, sort of the heart and heart-centered calling, and the fact that there are struggles and triumphs, and there are challenges and sacrifices in a calling. And I hear what you're describing as your calling. Would you agree with that?
I can't get rid of this. Believe you me, I honestly look at some of the stuff I do and where I go, and I wish I could do something else, like just have fun. I've gone into such a heavy career, Caroline. Like, I didn't choose this, and you know, it's where the dark is where I'm led. Like, I'm literally led into the darkest places. And I've got to go there, and I love it, because I know there is a sort of hope and a light to be uncovered. And we've got to be gentle with the offenders, because the offenders offend for whatever reason they've got. And I remember Jamie Bolger, the murder of the very young toddler, was literally a few years, if not months, after my grandma's death. And that was just so much, just the horror was horrendous. Like, and these teenage boys who did it. And, you know, later on in my life, I did the childminding course, and part of that was safeguarding. And we actually looked at, we were taught about this abused person. And then we had to guess who that person was. And it was one of the murderers of Jamie Bolger. And, you know, when we look at offenders, and now I'm looking at corporate offenders, government offenders, yeah, they may not even know what they're doing, or they've got their reasons for doing it, or what, you know, the corporates and the state, and then the individuals, we're not going to fix the problem unless we get down to really understanding why this harm keeps happening. And then restorative justice is what I learned in the youth offending service. And it's something that we can apply in the civil world, which is basically make sure you stop the harm. So identify what's causing, what is the harm, and then restore the harm. So, you know, in the civil world, that's compensation. And then make sure you rehabilitate the offender so that they don't do it again. And, you know, that I took that from the criminal law and put it into practice into the civil law. It's very immature, but that is the principles of how I believe we can make things change. And with cyber and digital, this is just so important. We cannot have people thinking they're so right in cyber to the detriment and the harm of other people.
Sophie, this is such a deep subject, and I'm sure that we will have part 2 and part 3 because it is so deep. But we are in our last 7 minutes of the show, believe it or not. So I would like you have some things that you are sharing and that are amazing. So I would like you to share, firstly, the signing up for your newsletter and how that is going to help people, and what that's about, and also the other events that you are attending and supporting. So if you'd like to talk about the first one in terms of signing up to your newsletter, that would be amazing.
Okay, so I've done a lot of LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for 13 years, come on it, come off it, had thousands of followers, had no followers. You know, I like to play with social media, but at the moment I'm quite committed to what I'm doing at the moment, working with Setfords. And this is a newsletter that it's basically, I wrote an ebook, but I've divided up the chapters so that people on LinkedIn can sign up to this newsletter for free. It's targeting lawyers as well as business owners, but really, you know, trainee solicitors and even up and coming founders and business people. It's worth reading because I cover why contract reviews are so important. And the reason why contract reviews are so important, and depending on what practice area you're looking at, so you could be looking at technology contracts, employment contracts, real estate, you know, all different areas of contracts, all very, very different. So this newsletter is just to give people a bit of an enablement, a starter for 10 of trying to identify some risks, because not everyone can get access to lawyers. And we need to help businesses even more somehow in this digital era, because it's just a lot of terms and conditions that people are simply not reading. So they're not understanding the risks they're taking on.
Well, I certainly just go agree and just go flying past it. So I totally agree with you. So please share with our viewers a little bit about the event that's coming up in April in Milton Keynes. It is for UK, for businesses, but please do share a little bit about that and what that is all about.
Yeah, so it's actually a global net business network that's behind it. So even if you can't get to Milton Keynes in April for this 2-hour VIP intensive networking session, it's well worth looking at the event page anyway, because a lot of the networking being done, and Caroline, I believe you and I met at one of these events, you know, it's I can't believe the power of this networking circuit. So as I said, if you can get a ticket, very reasonable price, and it's very nice to be in person. Far too easy to be online all the time. Good to be with humans, and I will definitely be there. But if you can't make it, but you're still interested in what my colleagues there and the global in the business, well, the business growth crowd is a new initiative which is really trying to help different people with different requirements for business development to match each other. So it's really accelerating your matchmaking in business time, if that makes sense, because how much time do we waste probably talking to the wrong people or going to the wrong events? And some of these events are extremely expensive. Victoria, who has set all this up, she knows exactly what she's doing. So I would say to anybody, just have a look at that event page. And even if you can't go to that event, basically, definitely just have a look at the other activities that she's got going on, because it's the networking network is net worth, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So please do share with our viewers, Sophie, as we close out the show, how best to contact you and the types of people that you would like to contact you.
I probably have something for everyone in some way, shape or form, but to keep it straightforward, Setford's is my practice area for law, and it's law that I'm really focusing on at the moment. I've got access to commercial litigation funding, so it's really important where there are harms and people need to make claims. I'm definitely interested in helping those types of groups, especially when it comes to cyber and technology. The other side of it is really working with business owners and possibly public sector organisations and corporates to implement better organisation resilience. And what that is basically paying real attention to the detail of the risks that they are not identifying and not managing. And I've done an awful lot of work with councils and organisations around that. So I really want to help. There is a time where claims are important, but there's also a time, the majority of the time is going to be business as usual. And what should we be doing to mitigate these risks so that they're not causing the harm that we're experiencing today?
So what's the best way to reach you?
I think LinkedIn. I think my link is on one of the reels. So connect on LinkedIn or email me is probably the best. So that email is @NEWBOULD with a U, so SNEWBOULD and then Setfords SETFORDS.co.uk. I have other businesses, so I do joint ventures and things with other businesses where we've got a bit more major project stuff to look at.
Thank you very much, Sophie. What an amazing guest appearance. Thank you so much for being our special guest today on the show.
Thank you, Caroline.
We have been exploring the digital dilemma, resilience, big tech, power, and legal battles. For me, you can reach me on No More Stress at live.co.uk or call me if you're international +44, if you're local 07523 120 189. You can reach out and follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook. Those are my two preferred platforms. Or also you can leave a comment on the in the comment section on YouTube under the video. Please do reach out and I look forward to being in service to you. Once again, thank you very much for being here, whether you're on the live or the replay, and thank you very much for our wonderful special guest, Sophie NEWBOULD. Please do join our VIP exclusive community and become an exclusive VIP community member for first access to our newest videos and photographs and insights on the British royal family, which is live streamed on YouTube and USA Global TV and Radio. Thank you very much for joining us, whether you're here live or replay. We look forward to seeing you next week at the same time. In the UK, we have turned into spring, so it is British summertime and it is lovely and sunny. I am so happy about that. So it's 7 p.m. British summertime next week, or 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Bye-bye for now, and over to our sponsors.
What if one simple skill could change the way you connect with the world? What if listening could open doors to deeper relationships, stronger businesses, and a better you? Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, brings you USA Global TV and Radio, a space where voices are heard, ideas are shared, and global communities thrive. Through the elevated listeners' courses and books, you'll master the power of listening, set boundaries with confidence, and transform conversations into opportunities. Join us. Listen, learn, elevate. Whether you're a leader, a coach, a business owner, or someone seeking stronger connections, your journey starts today. Subscribe, learn, and transform today.
Ever dreamed of hosting your own TV show, sharing your story with a global audience? Now's your chance to shine. At USA Global TV and Radio, we make it easy for you to create, host, and broadcast your very own TV show. Whether you're a storyteller, entrepreneur, or industry expert, we help you bring your vision to life. With our exclusive interview, live streaming, and podcasting training, you'll gain the skills and confidence to captivate your audience. Our global platform ensures your voice is heard worldwide. Join our community of creators who are already making an impact, one show at a time. Step into the spotlight. Host your own TV show on USA Global TV and Radio. Book your discovery call today at usaglobaltv.com. Copyright 2025 USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. To learn more, visit usaglobaltv.com. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.